What are you doing, beloved?
Attention, attention, my black brothers. What I want y'all to do right now is take out the do-rag, the silky, tie it down. I want to see the waves glistening. If you got nappy hair, pick it. Don't let nobody discourage you.
Ariel.
Black boy, black boy.
So what would your Housewives tagline be?
So I've been preparing for this day, y'all. I have a list. So if anybody want to go before I do, they can go.
Davian, do you want to go first?
I'm actually not sure. I thought about this for a very long time. And I know that it would have something to do with like the cliche of an apple. So thinking about like how all the Real Housewives of Atlanta carry their peaches, I would have my apple in hand. Don't know exactly what my tagline would be. I have to think a little bit deeper on that. Not to say that I've already done a photo shoot with an apple in my hand, pretending to be a Real Housewife of New Jersey when I used to teach in New Jersey. I'll find a picture and send it to you all.
Yeah.
But the tagline, I need to think a little bit longer on that one because it needs to be like equally shady, but equally witty, because that's just me. Okay. But I didn't think of it yet.
Yeah.
Got yours, Devery?
I got like 7. I'm excited. so okay, the first one is just very cliche. So it's in a room full of 9s, I always get my 10s, which is, I feel like that's basic, you know. Okay. And then, but it's always remember that if your name isn't in their mouths, you're not doing enough. And then don't take me for granted. Don't take me for granted. I will drag you. That's just my energy. And then it was another one was about like a podcast one. So it was like, you say you can't, like, you say that you don't want to hear me. Well, don't tune in, something of that nature. But it was those 4. I've been ready for this day. I need to figure out which.
You were really preparing.
I've been watching, like, I binge watch. I'm watching Potomac right now. And I've been like, I watch people's like YouTube of like the best taglines to the worst. And I'm like, some of these people just be saying some bullshit.
I haven't listened to anybody other than Potomac and Housewives of Atlanta. So I would not know.
Yeah. They'd be like, oh, you say you're mad at me? Good. I'm like, what? Girl, come harder.
So mine is, and I just thought about this like a minute ago. I'm a king by blood, and honey, I am always sitting on my throne.
Look, because your last name is King.
Yes, girl.
Yes, I'm
I
like,
used to always want to put that in my bio, but I was like, girl, you're doing a lot.
don't put that in your bio.
Mine, by blood, honey.
Yeah, I think mine will definitely be, don't take me for granted, I will drag you. I think that is like me and everything. Don't
you
take
are
me.
Such a Monique. You're a Monique Samuels for real.
Listen, I got the money, I got the house, I got the man. What else do I need?
Okay, wait. I actually think I have mine now because I tried to put it on the spot. In a room full of teachers, I'm the one bad apple.
Oh, yes.
I like that.
Spicy, honey.
I like that.
You interpret that the way you want to interpret it, but I'll leave it at that.
And on that note, what is up, everybody? It is your boy, Lordevery.
And I'm Derwinking.
And welcome back to another episode of That Black Boy Joy, where we create a space where Black boys can be themselves.
And so much more.
Yep. Oh, I was like, what did you say? But you guys, we are back. You guys, girls, and anybody in between, we are back. And of course, we have a guest with us in the building. As you all have heard his voice already, we have Davian Morgan in the building with us today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you all?
Excited. This weather is gloomy, but I don't. What? You spectacular with the weather?
I love rainy weather.
Yeah. I had a really good conversation with a friend today, so that really was a pick-me-up. And I got my Cosmopolitan over here, so a bitch couldn't be happier.
Oh, you're drinking, girl. I love it. I don't. What is okay? What is in a Cosmo? What is in a Cosmo?
Oh God, I'm so glad you asked. Well, it's cranberry juice, triple sec, lime juice, and I throw a little bit of lemon in there as well.
Zest it up.
It's so delicious, and I feel like a regular old Carrie Bradshaw, you know?
Just give me a margarita.
Give me the 1800 straight.
Oh, no chaser.
No chaser.
Oh my! All right.
You're talking to an educator. All we do is drink straight.
Ooh. In the break room.
Not
break
room. I can't say that online.
Well, we are going to get into you. I'm going to give them, a bio of you and things of that nature, and then we're going to carry on with the show. So we have Davian Morgan. He is a native Washingtonian and a Prince Georgian. He is alumnus of the University of Maryland, College Park, and Johns Hopkins University. University. Davian is currently serving as vice principal at an elementary academy here in the DC area, and he is currently pursuing his doctorate degree in educational organizational leadership at Vanderbilt University. Got all these degrees under here. And then also he is the founder and CEO of his nonprofit. It's a nonprofit, correct?
Yes.
Okay, right. I'm like, if it's for profit, let me not mess it up. Hopeful Horsons. So thank you for being on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Really excited to talk with you all and to talk a little bit about why I started Hopeful Horizons and some of the programming that we do with it.
That's us. Okay, Horizons.
I thought so, and I was like, okay, maybe I was wrong. I'm pretty sure.
Now I have to explain it because there is like a weird connotation to the name.
Because I see Horsons because it was. Okay.
I try to spell it a particular way and like capitalize letters. So like you think of like hopeful horizons, like a sunrise, like your view, which you can see the future, but because it's specific targetedly to Black and brown boys, it's hopeful horizons.
Okay.
So
I got you.
Correction,
I thought
y'all.
that Devery just spelled it wrong, and I was like,
that's
okay.
probably
that's what everyone says. I like fill out official paperwork. I like went to the bank to like set up our nonprofit account. And they were like, oh, it looks like you misspelled horizons. And I was like, no, I didn't. It's supposed to be an S. And they were like, are you sure? And I was like, yes, it's supposed to be an S.
Shout out Hopeful Horizons. Not
four sons. Not four sons. Our sons
Horizons.
Horizons.
It's like I look at it and I immediately think that, but I'm glad that you corrected me on the show so that is not happening. And people, for clarity, it's Horizons. Okay. But first of all, tell us what Black Boy Joy means to you. We asked that to all of our guests, and of course, we're going to ask you that as well.
I think it's just authentically being yourself and doing whatever makes you happy. I don't think that Black Boy Joy is just like this one thing. Me as a Black boy is very different than you as a Black boy or someone else as a Black boy, Black man, Black in between. Whatever makes you happy, whatever floats your boat, whatever brings you joy is your version of Black Boy Joy. And our versions of joy, our understandings of joy might be different, but I'm not going to knock you because you enjoy that and that's what makes you happy. So honestly, for me, like true Black Boy Joy for me is just like helping kids learn, specifically helping like Black and brown boys. Going to the gym, getting my fitness on, y'all. Okay. I used to be real skinny. And then like during like the last 4 years of like me teaching and leading, I gained about 70 pounds.
Oh, child. Education is a lot to gain.
Education will do that to you, and the drinks and the happy hours.
Well, you said that was over 4 years. So
that was over a course of 4 years. But I mean, as of 2 days ago, I'm officially down 50. Been taking care of myself.
Yes.
Not drinking as much, but still drinking, watching
on the
my
level.
But just like knowing that it's about taking care of yourself, like mentally and physically. I was just like, I felt like I was in a pretty good headspace mentally, but it was at the expense of like physical activity. Like, you know what? I'm gonna knock out this paper. I'm gonna keep getting these 4.0s. I'm gonna knock out this grade. I'm gonna lead this nonprofit. But when I go home, I'm gonna eat some Popeyes, then I'm gonna eat some cookies, then I'm gonna eat some chips, then I'm gonna have some drinks. I'm not gonna go for a walk. I'm not gonna walk my dog. And over a course of a few years, I was just like, this is not it. / I'm also trying to snag a man. And I just had to get my body back to what it used to be.
Okay.
My DMs will be popping again. And now they are. So I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm doing the right thing.
Be on standby about that because I want to, you've accomplished so much. So I really want to talk about that further in a lot more depth. So let's get to our Black Boy Joy Spotlight.
Yeah.
So this one's near and dear to me.
I love it. I love it.
Goes out to M. Lewis Music. So he is the creator, writer, director, producer, actor, and he's a musician. He created the web series that I have been in, My First Love, Withdrawals, and Relapses. So we do have our season finale this week. It was supposed to be yesterday, but it's on Sunday. By the time this airs, have been yesterday.
Okay.
So, you know what? Lewis has literally, you see the number of things I said, all of those were for the show alone. He is
talented.
really a powerhouse. Like, he is so dedicated, so hardworking, and so talented. And we have just, over the course of, filming last year, we watched him do some incredible things. We watched him step out of the director role and into camera, and he's so natural. Like, this performance that he's given has been truly incredible. And then to know that he had to jump away and then produce and direct was just so mind-blowing to me. So I definitely think he deserves the spotlight for bringing us quality entertainment that I'm so glad I was able to be a part of.
Yes.
And then also because his music is going to be released soon, and I can't wait to spread that to the world, because everyone has been asking about it.
Because he gives me Anthony Hamilton. Every time I listen, first of all, y'all should all watch the YouTube channel. I mean, video, like the YouTube series. I absolutely love it. It's a breath of fresh air. Just culture and history in itself with DC and the DMV area. But then also the music is very much Anthony Hamilton. And I just here for it.
And I have some sex scenes with a woman, so I just want everyone to know that there are two.
Gooped. Y'all, I was gooped when my girl told me that. And I said, I gotta tune it. And it's not just, I'm just let you know, it's not just one. We're gonna say
two.
that.
And they're pretty intense.
Shout out to M. Lewis. Yes. We're gonna get into our hot topics.
Wonderful. I thought I was gonna have way more hot topics today, but this week has been kind of boring.
Yeah, it's still coming off the high of the election. There's just so many things coming out of nowhere now.
Well, first of all, Trump lost, so shout out to that. I specifically worded this as Trump lost and not that Biden won, because I truly did not give a fuck about Biden winning. I just simply wanted Trump to lose.
That was the thing. When I tell you, I literally just, people was turning up. Like when I told y'all, I think last week, but people was literally lit on my whole street. And I was like, what is happening? Is it a riot? Did somebody, and it was Trump losing. And I was like, cheers to that. He's not trying to give up that title, y'all, though. He's
gonna fight it till the end. And you know what? Trump is going to be our problem, at least for the next 4 years. He is not going away.
He's gonna find some way to keep himself relevant in that area, and I'm just gonna be like, somebody need to put him in a cage and put a muzzle on him.
Seriously.
Now we have the thoughts of him running for re-election in 2024. There's that weird loophole that after you completed your term, you don't have to technically be re-elected back to back. He can wait these 4 years and technically run again. And I'm like, that's either going to work in our favor or work against us. Like, the Democrats get themselves together and they're like, we do not let this happen again.
We got to band together.
Or he spends the next 4 years focused on flipping states that we just flip black, blue, which we do not have time for.
He has a vendetta.
He really does. And so I was watching MSNBC today, and they were talking about the Republicans have no choice, or at least they're choosing, because they feel they have no choice but to back him over the next 4 years, because he's really maintained dominance over the party. So they're not going to put a viable candidate up against him. And the reason why, I guess, is because he's really invigorated the racists, and he's gotten people who might not have voted before, and he has just gotten a huge fan base that have become Republican voters against their own benefit, because they truly do not benefit by that at all, short of being proud of being white. So the Republicans don't want to lose those votes. So of course they're going to rely on him. They're going to be anti-Trump for that very reason. So literally he's going to be our problem for
He's the face of Republicans. He's the face of Republicans.
Yeah, he is. That's it.
I mean, he's
the head of the power of the party. He is the most powerful person in the party at this point.
I'm just like, girl, get out of here. Good luck, girl. Get him out of here. Somebody need to do something with him.
But I am looking forward, if he still continues not to concede, for the Secret Service to drag him out come January 21st.
I need a video. I need somebody to pack that shit up. Melania ready to go, but I need to see Trump out that motherfucking door.
Can't wait. Did you guys happen to see, I didn't get too much of it, but did you happen to see what happened on Twitter with Keke Palmer and talking about EBT?
I saw it.
I did too. I didn't. Okay.
No, go ahead, because I do want to get this perspective out.
I didn't. So what I saw, I didn't see the problem because I seen the context. However, when she first put the Twitter thing of like, how would y'all feel if you could only buy healthy foods at EBT? I was like, what was she doing? Because before she was talking about like it needs to be free and things of that nature, but when she just put that single tweet out, everybody ripped her to shreds. So I was kind of like, yes, that tweet by itself. If you would have seen the context of what was happening, it wasn't that, but people went ham.
Someone made a really good point that at that point they would probably raise the price of healthier foods because then they would be buying more of the healthier foods. So I was like, oh, I didn't consider that. But then also someone was saying like you'd be depriving people of like pleasure by not allowing them to buy like snacks. And so I get both sides of that thought because we do want to improve the health of the working class who tend to be less healthy because they have less access to healthcare and also healthcare information. Like, oh, you shouldn't be eating these things because they could affect your body in this way. So I think she was really lacking nuance and she just didn't think that through. Like she just didn't give that thought too much time. She didn't develop it.
Yeah. I think she did. I think it was just her just talking. I think it was just like, what if we, so, because I was thinking like, if she was saying that automatically healthy foods are free, which she didn't need to clarify what was healthy foods, but then also you just had to pay for pleasure foods. I think that is fine. Because like ultimately if you have food stamps, you would still have that money for pleasure foods, but just like automatically, like how would you encourage people to use the free money?
That was an afterthought because she knows good amount of what she did not think about. First of all, who's giving free food anywhere other than a fucking food pantry? And she knows that, and everybody else knows that. No one is getting.
Does she know that? Because I don't think she's had food stamps before.
No, I'm sure she hasn't. Shout out to Jennifer Williams. I've never seen a food stamp.
I don't think she's seen that. I don't know.
Oh man.
Oh well. Another news today at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Megan Thee Stallion announced that she is dropping, darling, she is dropping her debut album, Good News, November 20th. I'm super excited. I am looking forward to my knees to, get ready. I'm ready for this. But I love that these artists are dropping their albums sooner. They're giving us like a week or two like notice. Like Ariana Grande did that as well. Like she gave us a week, like get ready. And I appreciate that because I don't have to wait too long. So I'm really excited for what Megan is about to give us. And of course we need some Megan because we don't know what Rihanna and Beyonce is doing right now. And
I've given up hope on the both of them.
Beyonce just dropped the black version.
Ivy Park first of all, that's the cutest one. That's the cutest one since her first drop with the white and black. So at least for me, I know the girls loved the mint green. It just wasn't for a bitch like me,
Every time I look at it, I feel like I'm a character in The Wiz. Like when the lights turn, like red. The color is green.
People. Don't do that. Don't do that.
They like that. Like, is it just me? I feel like I'm just like a Skittle on a rainbow, or I'm like a Wiz character.
No. We do emerald green in Oz. We don't do mint.
Well, what I'm saying is how she has everybody dressing alike. I feel like I'm one person. I'm in like one of the regions of Oz.
I got you.
One of the regions of Oz. Like if you wear this color, you are a Munchkin. If you wear that color, you are in the Emerald City. So I don't like that. It's very culty to me.
Okay. I will say that much. It's weird. Like it's weird for everyone to be in these sort of like uniform. Okay. All right. I'll give you that.
It's to make like dystopian vibes as well. Like you are in the farm. You are one of the people that make the babies. You are the ones that work in the house. Like
they said it was given Handmaid's Tale and I couldn't refute that.
Did y'all buy any?
I intend to eventually.
I tried the first round, had everything in my cart ready, even downloaded the app because I thought that was somehow gonna let me get it faster.
No.
Clicked it right at 4 o'clock, kept getting the spinning pinwheel, everything sold out.
Damn.
Well, I like the black more than everything else in the previous collection anyway, so I was just like,
thank you.
Hopefully everyone is broke from the first round, and now I'm gonna get paid right on time to buy my black in the second.
They charging to their cards. They about to get an interest fee.
Hopefully everyone is broke.
They not gonna be broke. They gonna find a way to fucking do that shit. Like I said,
personal loan.
Right, their personal loan for Beyonce. Child, I guess.
We didn't take the time to shout out Kamala Harris for being the first Black Asian American vice president.
Just say woman of color.
You know what? Honestly, I'm so happy about that, but I don't want to celebrate the symbolism of it too much because that was how we let Obama get away with too much shit. So, congratulations, Kamala.
Yes, people was bringing up when Lil Kim like complimented her because like even though Lil Kim was ready, Kamala was ready to put like Lil Kim to jail, which she did go to jail, and
one Asian woman to another.
Right. And Lil Kim was like, she's doing it for the ladies, but still fuck her, but still she's doing it for the ladies. So I was like, I appreciate the positivity from that.
That's right. It's one of those things where it's like neither one of these two are who I wanted on my ideal ticket.
Absolutely.
But like Derwin said, like anyone who's gonna beat Trump, I'm here for you. I'm vote for you 100%. I might take down all my old shady memes about Kamala and her sending folks to jail and Joe having dementia, but I took them all down and I posted all positive stuff. And
y'all ain't about to catch me.
This was before the election? This was before election day?
After.
This was before election day.
Yeah, okay, I get that.
So I became a diehard. I was not a diehard at heart, but for the sole purpose of getting Trump out of office, I will do whatever it takes to ensure that people vote and that they voted for that ticket.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody though. I appreciate it. I shout out to everybody.
I simply avoided saying anything negative about Joe and Kamala because I thought it was counterproductive and I really did just want to get Trump out. But I just wasn't enthusiastic about voting. And I thought that was a huge disappointment to me. And I thought I was going to do it the day after the election, but that clearly dragged on for almost 5 days. So once the inauguration is over, I want to have a conversation with everyone.
I thought you want to have a conversation with Joe. We're going to bring him to the show.
A wide one about how the Democratic Party really disappointed the people this go around. I truly do feel disappointed. And I think we've allowed them to get away with giving us these half-assed candidates for a long time and not really acknowledge some of the left ideas, which would really truly be a benefit to the working class. Like, I just don't, how we're consistently ignoring that is really strange to me. So
I like I said, I tell people Joe is familiar dick. That was the only reason he got this far. People knew him. They kept saying he was black because he was with Barack, but I think really it was because he was familiar dick, and old people love that. They don't like to consider anybody else. That's probably ageist. I'm sorry, you all.
Old people love familiar.
No,
Let me go talk to my grandmother.
That is the case. They don't want to hear too much about what this new person has to offer. They know what this person, Joe, has. So they said, let's just keep this person in. That's science. Like, that's science. Unquote me. Quote me. But no, I ultimately think that. So I was like, it was a cop-out, but I definitely agree to have that conversation, Devin, because we can't keep doing that.
We need to. We certainly need to. Final shout out is to Ariana Grande, who got her 5th #1 on Billboard. My sister's really just tearing the game.
They keep hating on my girl, and I don't care. She's getting her coin, and she's #1 again. You girls are mad.
Like, y'all will not tear my good girl down. You just will not. You just won't. You know.
I need a live concert though. I do need a version. I need some song that I need to hear her singing live.
I think I'm just mentally shook when I played that album and heard the words "pussy" leave her lips. I was like, all right, I saw her becoming like her own woman. I'm like, wow, you truly made that jump from like Nickelodeon to being
she need to.
I was like, woo, okay, this is the type of content that I want to hear. Let me go and put my earbuds in my Caucasian neighborhood at the top of my lungs.
No, I'm taking them bitches out because she's Italian, so I can blast her.
She's a year older than me, so I had to remind myself of that, like that she's not like 24.
Oh, wait, how old is she? 25? 26? Okay, I was like, wait, what? Forgot how old you was.
A couple months older than me.
I live. I appreciate her music. I appreciate everything she's doing for the world right now, ending world hunger and world peace. So we are going to get right into the reason we are here today. We are going to talk to Davian about him and all of his projects. So first of all, tell us more about you that we probably missed in the bio that we did in the beginning. What are some things that we missed out
on? I mean, I think you all covered a lot. I think like a little bit of context of how I got into education. One, never intended on being a teacher ever. I have like tutor kids in the past. I'm the oldest of all my siblings, but when I was at UMD, I was a criminal justice major, criminal justice and sociology double major, and minor in global terrorism studies. So I was full blown set on like going to the FBI, DOD, CIA, but ended up meeting with the Teach for America recruiter. And people hear things about Teach for America, and Teach for America definitely has its good and it's not so good. But I had a very positive experience. I'm actually still working at the school that Teach for America placed me in 7 years ago. Oh, wow. Which is like pretty much unheard of for most folks. But instantly fell in love with teaching. Taught first grade, looped up with those students to second grade, taught second grade, looped up with those students to third grade, taught third grade again, became a vice principal my 6th year there, and this is my 2nd year as vice principal. But I honestly love it. I couldn't see myself doing anything else. But I think a big thing for me was, one, being from DC, being from PG, was that I like get to give back to kids who like look like me in a neighborhood that I grew up in. Like my school is literally 8 minutes away from where I grew up on Good Oak Road, and then like 10 minutes away from like where I grew up in like Temple Hills and Oxon Hill. So like I knew some of the families that now have their kids going to that school beforehand, but I think specifically, I love all my babies, but you got to show that extra love to our Black and brown boys who like, even at 1st and 2nd grade are trying to be like rough and tough. And I can't be like that. Yo, that's gay. No homo. And I'm like, yo, like chill out. Like you can't even spell no homo yet. Like let's get to the deeper meaning of why you're saying that. And I feel as though those conversations are often ignored, or they're led by people that don't look like them. So it's just like, you probably shouldn't have said that thing, but it's me, a white woman, telling you that. Or me, a Black man who heard it, but I'm a straight Black man and I ain't gonna check you because I low-key got the same views as you. But I'm not gonna publicly say that in a school. But me as a gay Black man teaching Black and brown kids, you say that's gay, you say that's no homo, I'm gonna be like, oh, no, rewind it back. Why'd you say that's gay? Like, what do you actually mean? Oh, I meant that was stupid. Then why didn't you say that was stupid? Why'd you have to say that was gay? And then it turns into this whole conversation of like, you've internalized a lot of fucked up stuff at 8 years old. So it's like, I feel as though my job now is to like catch them early. Like that's why I'm super big on elementary. Can't teach high schoolers. I love them, but I'm gonna fight them. Probably the same thing with middle schoolers too.
Oh Lord, I hate
with those elementary school kids. You can catch them when they probably still have a little bit of those mindsets coming in, those biases. But I'm like, nope, I'm checking you right now so that by the time you get to middle school, we don't have to deal with this, because it's going to be much harder to unwind that then. But then you're also going to check your homies. Like I have one student in particular, where like we've had those tough conversations, and now he's that boy in middle school checking his friends when they say like, that's gay, faggot, that's retarded. Like he's the one checking them, and I'm like, perfect. My job is done for now. But like the goal is that like kids internalize that themselves and then become advocates for each other. Like you're more likely to hear it when your homie that's your same age is like, yo, that's messed up, don't say that. Versus me as a teacher, because even if I do say it in a positive way, you're still gonna feel like I'm condemning you. You're still gonna like bottle up and not listen to me. But let your best friend check you, and I bet you get it together.
Do you feel like you have to be like that champion for like Black queer men in the education space at times? Do you feel like that? And if so, is that exhausting?
I wouldn't necessarily say that I have to be a champion. I would rather say advocate. Champion kind of like implies that like I'm the boss bitch and I know exactly what's right and you got to listen to me. I feel as though I have some expertise in some things, and there are some things that I don't know yet, but like my job is to like advocate for those kids, but like also like shine spotlight that like smart Black and brown gay men can like hold leadership positions in schools, be confident, be competent, be tough. Because I feel as though we often fall into the bucket when we think about Black men, especially in school leadership. You're the dean. You're the person that's checking kids. They go to your office primarily because of behavior, but you rarely see these Black and brown men like actually as like, you're the vice principal, you're the principal, you're the year of academics. It's like, nope, you're the dean. You're the dean of this. You're the dean of behavior. And I'm like, I don't want folks to think that that's like all that we are. And there's nothing like the dean at our school, he's awesome. And that role like fits him perfectly. But I'm like, some people have that connotation, that idea that like, that's the only thing that a Black man can do at a school, especially when a school is ran or was started, especially in the charter school space, predominantly by white people, because the role of the Black man is to be the chastiser and the person who gets the Black kids together. And I'm like, nope, like, I know my shit. Like, I know literacy standards. I know how to get kids from point A to point B. And in that way, I feel as though like I have to promote that a little bit more so people can see it. And like, not only for like people outside of education, but for kids. For me, and I'm pretty sure for like some of you all too, I didn't have a Black male teacher until 8th grade. And then I had another one, I believe in 11th grade for math. Everyone else was either a Black woman, a lot of them were white women. And I'm like, okay. But then of course, the dean of the middle school and of the high school were Black men. So that was all that I saw. So I was just like, oh, like, that's the only thing that I can be at that age. But I want kids to see like, oh, wait, the Black guy is the principal of the school, not the white guy I see always walking around that.
Yeah. Is it? Yeah.
I actually had a my first principal in Graceville Elementary School on the Eastern Shore was a Black man. That was the first time I had ever seen a principal at all. And then his sister ended up being my vice principal in middle school, and together they were really, I mean, they had that sort of disciplinarian edge, but they also really motivated us and really held us to like a pretty high standard for performance, which I thought was super helpful. It kind of felt like having this sort of like mother and or grandparent like figure at school. I loved it.
Yeah, I had Black male teachers sparingly, which I was really grateful to have. Like I do remember having one like in kindergarten. I don't remember his name, but I know he had dreads. That's all I remember because I was always enamored by his dreads. Child, I don't know if and then I remember like sparingly I had one. You saw, I know, right? I was like, what if, okay. And then also had one in middle school, and then 2 teachers in high school. And I remember one specifically, my like science teacher, we would go back and forth. Like he'd always be like, oh, I'm taking your mom to dates, and I'd be like, you too old for her. Yeah, we used to have those type of relationships. So I had like lucky. He was a jokester. He was very much a jokester, but he would joke too serious. And I'm not the one to play. I'm like, my mom is married. She don't do that with you, old man. So yeah, but I definitely agree. I think also working in education, men are also labeled to be the aggressors in those spaces too, which is, they always say they want men in these spaces, but to be the ones that are like the authoritative ones, the ones to make, but it's like, we need to be in also other spaces as well, so that we're not just seen as men that you go to when you're in trouble.
Exactly.
So I definitely appreciate that. Can you also tell us about your nonprofit, Hopeful Horizons?
Yeah.
So how you started it? Yeah.
I started Hopeful Horizons back in 2018, and it's right on par with this topic. So it was still specifically geared to Black and brown boys, but it was primarily for students at my school in DC. And a big trend, a trend that we see everywhere, but especially in charter schools, is that our Black and brown boys were the ones who were being referred to, quote unquote, behavior support the most often. So like, you were the one being referred to the person to go speak to and to go calm down. And then even though our school is 98% Black, it's still majority female to male, but the overwhelming majority of kids, I'm saying like 70%, even though boys probably made close to 45%, were the ones being sent to behavior support over and over and over again. sometimes there are some kids who have had like some very traumatic experiences and they have like some behavioral needs that are being addressed. But some of the things that they were being sent to behavior support for were ridiculous. So-and-so threw his pencil on the ground and wouldn't pick him up, so I sent him out. So-and-so had his hat on, I told him to take it off. He didn't take it off, so I sent him out. And yeah, same face.
I'm like,
it's not major things like so-and-so threw down in the back of the classroom and they were wrecking. I'm like, okay, we have to have a conversation about this. And you kind of got to go to calm down. But it was like for the overwhelming majority of these instances, they were very minor things being reported by both Black and white teachers, primarily by the white teachers. But I was just like, gotta get down to the root of what this is, because I'm like, we see this issue year after year after year. When we look at the data at the end of the year, thousands of referrals for Black and brown boys. And I'm like, all right, we keep seeing this trend, but our mindset at that time was not to get at the root cause of why that was happening. It was like, oh, let's hire more behavior support staff. We only have 2 people, let's get 3. Oh, wait, now we need 4. Oh, wait, the numbers are going up. Now let's split the academies in half. Now we have 5 behavior support people. And I'm like, y'all know that's not actually fixing the issue, right?
Yeah, I keep adding more. We realize that it's not changing.
Right? So I'm just like, this has to click for someone. Like, I'm not the only person that sees this. But this was when our leadership team was majority white. And I think there was some conscious and unconscious bias of like, I don't really see an issue with that. No, that's defiance. They dropped their pencil. The teacher asked them to pick it up. They didn't pick it up. They should leave. So I'm like, you're now going to send the kid who's already 2 grade levels behind out the room for an hour to calm down. And now they're missing the instruction that would catch them. I think that was the biggest thing. I was just like, this was primarily happening to our kids who were not like truly succeeding as best as they could academically. And I was just like, all right. So I think at the root, it was like, okay, these kids are getting sent to behavior support, one, because they're truly dealing with like traumatic things at home, and this is their way of coping with it. And they don't have the correct coping strategies to deal with it. Like what they see or what they've heard is that like, oh, you disrespected me, I'm gonna punch you in the face. I'm gonna give you the middle finger. I'm gonna say fuck you to the teacher as a 2nd grader and walk out the room. I'm like, all right, clear social emotional gap there. Or it's the kids who are struggling academically. Their way to get out of it, you call them on person, they don't know the answer. Now they're frustrated and embarrassed. They do something to get sent out of class on purpose so that they can avoid the work. And then you just have the instances where it's just straight up conscious, unconscious teacher bias. Even for our Black teachers who have internalized some pretty messed up things for people who look just like them. So at the root, just like, all right, I'm going to develop this program that's focused on like developing SEL skills for kids. So social emotional learning. How do you deal with tough emotions? And not even just tough emotions, but when you're happy, because we know our Black and brown boys sometimes do not like to smile because they've learned that that's just not the right thing to do. That's sissy, that's gay. You can't, you can show frustration. You can show anger and be mad and show power and aggression. But you can't show that you're happy, and you can't show that you're sad, and you can't show all these other things. So I'm like, we got to teach y'all the right way how to deal with y'all feelings. But then for our kids who just struggle academically, offering some tutoring services. And then to some extent, and this didn't grow as big as I'd actually wanted it to be, but to address like unconscious and conscious teacher bias. So we had like some small sessions with teachers to like give feedback and honestly reflect like, hey, if this situation happened, like what would you do? And then kind of have like a focus group discussion across like lines of difference. Like, ooh, the white woman said she would have did this because she said this, and the Black man said he would have did this, and the Black woman said they wanted to do this, and it showed a lot about what people thought. That didn't grow to like be the biggest thing because I think that was the most mentally exhausting thing for me. I was like, you know what? I'm going to focus on the kids. The teachers are definitely a common denominator here. I'm also going to focus on the kids so that y'all don't even have a reason, even with your unconscious and conscious bias, to send them out.
Yeah.
Did you notice a difference in the experience in the number of years of experience they had? Was there a difference in people who were freshly out of school and people who had been there for a long time? Because I'm curious to know what sort of indoctrination happens in teachers for them to develop that perspective.
I would say less about experience, more about the mindset. But
Okay.
those mindsets can be directly correlated to the amount of experience someone has had in the classroom. I think it's even comparing like the charter world to like the traditional public school world to like a Montessori school. We've had teachers come from different places, and I think that's played a part in it. People who come from like the charter school world, for most of them, and our school has grown a lot. We still got a lot of growth to make. But we were in a place, and I'm not sure if you all are familiar with like KIPP and Uncommon schools and other like popular public charter schools. Within any network, there are going to be some great Uncommon schools, some great KIPP schools, some great Ingenuity Prep schools. And then in every network, there's going to be some schools where there's some stuff going on that like should be addressed and it's not.
Yeah.
But like kids are getting high results, so no one really cares. But I think the biggest thing is just like, you can have a first year teacher who has the mindset that like, these are Black and brown babies that need protection, and I'm going to advocate for you. But then you could also have the 10th year teacher who's just been doing this all of their life. They're hopping from school to school that has like a similar mindset as them, and they continue the same pattern. Most of the time you would see that like our younger teachers would kind of fall into that pattern. And I'd say it's again less because of the actual amount of years of teaching, but more of the mindset and the like lack of experience. They were like, okay, if I send out the kids who are like really making it tough for me to teach because I'm a first year teacher who's struggling to keep my head above water, and I just send them out, now I can just focus on the kids who are actually paying attention, and now I can teach my lesson. But then you have like the other teachers who are like, I know how to teach and I know how to control the classroom, but you want to talk back and forth with me, you want to give me a power struggle, and I'm gonna send you out because we're not about to do this.
Yeah.
I have actually, and the reason I asked is because I assume that it would be the fresher the experience, the fresher the outlook. But that's a sort of, because I know that if I had started, that would be me, because I'm always concerned about children's emotional well-being anyway, because I do know that most of the time when a child is being defiant, it does come from some sort of like
external
untrained emotional like or a difficulty processing emotions. That's what I was trying to say.
I think about also the external things. Like a lot of teachers don't think about like things like, well, what I think of specifically with like white teachers and also teachers that are coming from like these teacher fellowships is like, it looks cookie cutter, but like understanding the whole scenario or the whole mindset of what the student is going through is a challenge that some of them just don't want to deal with, which is a problem in a space where we have to be transparent. Teachers are not just teachers, and they're more than that. And you have to realize and recognize that very early on that you're not just coming in here to teach. Like there's moments when you probably won't be able to get through that lesson, but you will have some breakthroughs with some students. But I think sometimes the teacher fellowships, and I would love for you to speak about that as well. Like sometimes these students are in these teacher fellowships and they come in and maybe have this false pretense or may not have the like adequate or the proper mindset or experience to deal with like a whole student and not just like the lessons, the teacher student.
100% agree. And I think that like there are some teachers who just do not fully understand that like that is a part of your job.
I was going to ask,
especially when the majority of these like alternative teaching programs like Teach for America, like many other programs, like you're intentionally going into neighborhoods with Black and brown kids or kids of low income. Like if you want to be a teacher and teach in the suburbs, go do your thing. But like you made the conscious choice and you knew it was going to be hard and you knew what came with it. With that, I'm like, all right, like I know how I grew up. I like grew up like very low income. My family eventually made that like shift to like middle class, and now I feel comfortable in like middle upper class. I'm like, okay. But there are some people who are like, you know what? I'm gonna, as a white woman, I am gonna be the savior for these Black and brown babies, and I'm gonna.
They be like that. I'll be like, no.
And they're gonna grow so much. That white savior complex is something to not be
child,
because so many people in alternative teaching programs, they have it, and it's scary because I'm like, all right, like there's some people that I like know they have it, but I'm like, damn, you're like a damn good teacher, and I feel like you do want to do what's best for kids, but we gotta like knock that savior complex out of you. And then there's some people who are just like, yep, I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna save these Black and brown kids, and they're going to do really well for these 2 years, and then I'm going to do my 2 years and Teach for America, and this is going to look great on my resume, and now I'm going to go off to law school and go get my doctorate, and now I'm going to become a doctor like half of them.
I've seen that happen as well. I did city year, so I've seen that people only doing a gap year to tokenize our Black and brown students, to be like, I was here in the trenches.
I taught in Southeast DC,
and I'm just like,
and look at me now.
I'm like,
a neurosurgeon.
Right. I'm like, okay,
I can do anything.
Yeah, I'm like, no, you can't. But being in the education system for so long, what have you noticed about just education in DC, public and or charter? I mean, charter and or public.
A lot has changed. I tell people this story all the time, which is why I always say I'm a native Washingtonian, but I'm also like a true Prince Georgian. So my family from Southeast DC, that is where we're all from. I lived in Southeast DC until I was 5, and specifically until I was 5 because it was time to start school. And my mom was like, you are not going to DC public schools. Like charter schools were not really a thing back in 1990. What's my age? 1997. But my mother, my father, they met at DCBS schools. They went to Eastern High School. My grandmother went to Anacostia. Like, my family is from DC.
Yeah, they are.
You are not going to DCBS. So they all, and this is funny because I know this is not just the experience of me, but like, I don't know if you all have heard like the Black migration from DC to PG. And for most folks, it's because they did not want their kids growing up in DC, primarily because of school, but also because of violence and a lot of other things. And I'm like, shit, like PG is only a step up, but it ain't that much better depending on where you go in PG.
Yeah.
But like, I was like, that set a fire under me for a very long time because I just really didn't understand. Like, so much of our family was still in DC. So we always had to like travel 20, 30 minutes to see the rest of our family because we were the only people that lived in PG County. And I'm like, why did we move? Then my mom kind of explained it to me and I was like, oh. But it like really clicked for me at my high school graduation because I eventually ended up giving like a speech and I looked out in the audience, and this sounds like very cliche, but I went to Potomac High School, a school that is still kind of struggling to this day, but was especially struggling when I went there. And our graduating class had to be like 40% of what we started with. And I was just like, oh shit, like this is what she was talking about. Like, we moved from DC to PG and it's not even that much better in PG. I think that's when it clicked that like, oh, this is like a widespread thing. And it was really why I wanted to do Teach for America in DC. Like, I applied, they make you pick your preferences. So I was like, oh, like New York, Atlanta, so I could be a hoe and all these other things. But I was like, I really want DC. And if you don't give me DC, I really don't know if I'm going to accept this.
Yeah.
Because it was just like my family literally moved, even though it wasn't far, it was like 15, 20 minutes, but we literally moved from one place to another because she thought that that was going to give me a better shot in education. I will say DC then compared to DC now is a lot better. And I think that's because of a factor of a lot of things. One, I do credit it to the expansion of charter schools. And I know some people feel some type of way about charter schools. Again, there are great charter schools. There are some not so great charter schools, and most of them are closing or will be closed soon. But I think like giving families the choice of like where they wanted to go so that they're not just stuck at their neighborhood school that they knew wasn't good.
Yeah.
And then charter schools inherently have the choice of like, all right, we can make this position and we can choose this curriculum and we can do this and we can choose whether or not to have uniforms. Like, that choice allowed people to make decisions in some cases that hurt Black and brown kids, and in some cases help Black and brown kids. So I definitely think the expansion of charter schools helped. This one's a little controversial, but she shook shit up in a way that I think could have been done in a different way, but it really helped to like expose what the hell was happening in DC. And that's Michelle Rhee. I don't know how much you all know about Michelle Rhee, but she was the chancellor of DC public schools. I can't remember exactly how many years ago. But essentially she came through. She was also Teach for America, Asian American woman. So, you know, there's the idea of like, woo, like this white passing woman is coming through and cutting all these jobs. But she essentially went through, was just like, you're not doing a good job. You're failing Black and brown kids. You're fired. You're fired. You're off tenure. I'm cutting all y'all out. And I was just like, woo, okay, one, this is a great thing because DC was flooded, just like PG was, with teachers who were teachers who weren't doing shit and were getting checks.
Yeah.
I had those teachers who were like, here's your worksheet for the day. They sat at that desk. I finished my worksheet. They said, great job. Do whatever you want.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's still how. Yeah.
I know it's still a thing, but like back in the day, especially in DC, there's like, I can't, what's the documentary? Waiting for Superman. If y'all haven't seen that, I would highly recommend it because it really goes into like DC and like Michelle Reeve's time. But like there were teachers who genuinely weren't doing shit, but then nothing could truly be done about it because they were tenured. So they were like, I'm just chilling. Y'all are giving me $100,000 plus a year. Y'all aren't coming to observe me. Oh, teachers make bank.
Excuse me?
Teachers make bank. Oh, like if as a teacher in DC, depending on like how many years you've been teaching and what kind of a degree you have, I'm pretty sure you can make upwards to $120,000.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
so
you got to put the work in.
We're collecting paychecks to sit in classrooms and hand out ditto sheets, put on movies every other day. And Michelle Reeve gave, no, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, that principal's fired. And it was weird because a lot of the teaching staff and a lot of the leadership were Black and brown people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like that double-edged sword of like, damn, y'all are treating y'all own people this way. But me as this Asian woman who's white passing, I'm gonna cut all these jobs. So for like people in education, some of them were like, yes, we're getting these bad teachers out and we're gonna put together an evaluation system that like holds teachers accountable. And I'm like, yes, I'm here for that. But she did it so abruptly with like little to no input from like communities and like stakeholders that I was like, ooh, sis, you could have chilled out with that. Like this principal may not have been the best, but you essentially didn't give them an opportunity to fix it. You didn't talk with students and families to see how they felt about it. Like so-and-so could have actually been a great person. You put them on an improvement plan for a year, they turn it around, great, you keep their job.
Sure.
She gave very much, this is what it says on paper, come have a meeting with me. You're fired. Next person. Your scores haven't grown in 5 years. You're fired. So I think she had the right mindset of getting out people who were not doing the best things for Black and brown kids. How she went about it, people don't agree with, I don't agree with, but she did shake shit up. And since then, charters have expanded. The teacher evaluation programs have been a lot better. Teachers are being held to a higher standard. Teacher pay has increased, which is why so many people are now flooding to DC. So that was a smart choice because now DC, up there with like New York and a few other places, has like the most competitive teacher salaries. So now you're getting these people who are bomb-ass teachers leaving other cities to come to DC. Beautiful. So there's a lot of things working in our favor, a lot of things that still need to be fixed. DC is in a much better place than what it was.
So you sound, obviously you're a very, very busy man. So I'm curious about what keeps you grounded and what's been your rock throughout your journey.
I think it's specifically individual stories of success for my kids. I keep those in the back of my brain all the time. I love all my Black and brown boys, but there's just certain stories and certain aha moments where I'm like, I do this for you. So like one student in particular, I had him in 3rd grade. He came to me reading on a pre-K reading level, did not know all of his letters and letter sounds, and was someone very similar to what we talked about earlier, who then acted out because he was too embarrassed to speak out in class, knew that when he was called on, he didn't know how to read. He wasn't the best mathematician. So he was like, my way to get out of this is to turn up every single day in this classroom, make your life a living hell so that I can avoid the work and no one really knows that I'm like so far behind. And I was like, nope, we're not doing this. So my sole purpose was building a very strong relationship with him and building a very strong relationship with his mother. Because I think that's often the gap that's forgotten. It's just like, kids are not going to listen to you if they don't like you. And I'm very big on building relationships with kids. And I'm like, damn, I'm like the same age as like some of y'all parents. So like, I don't even really look at y'all. I look at y'all as like my little brothers, and I'm gonna, in a professional way, check you.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna lean right on in, and with a smile while everyone's watching, say, life together. Right now, we're gonna have a conversation in the hallway. But it's those moments where I'm like, all right, any other person right now would just send you to behavior support, and you're just gonna continue to fall behind. Then you're gonna be a sixth grader who can't read, someone who eventually drops out, and they're just over it. But I was just like, nope, I'm gonna catch this early. We're not doing this. You're making it tough to build a relationship with you, but I'm not gonna give up on you. I'm still gonna keep trying. And this particular kid is actually the catalyst of why I even started this group, because I started one-on-one tutoring with him after school personally. And then by the end of the year, he wasn't quite caught up to where he should have been, like in terms of like an end of third grade reading level, but he was reading on like a beginning, middle of a year, third grade reading level. So he grew basically 2.5 years worth of reading growth. And I was like, this is possible. Yes, we're dealt with like the unfair deck of cards that a lot of our babies are reading below grade level, but that doesn't mean that it's impossible to catch them back up. But it takes hard ass work. Like it was a hard ass time building a relationship with him, keeping up with mom, making sure that I sent him extra homework. And that was just for one kid. So if you're that teacher who has 15 of those kids in your classroom, it becomes exhausting.
It's
but
burnout.
It goes back to that conversation that we had earlier. Like, you knew what you signed up for. If this is too tough for you, you know what? Go ahead and leave. Those people who like decide to leave the classroom, I'm like, you know what? I'm not even gonna hate on you because this wasn't for you and you're not doing what's best for Black and brown babies. You go right on over to Northwest DC where all those kids are reading above grade level. You go right on ahead. So that it opens a spot for someone who genuinely wants to do this hard ass work.
Yeah.
So I think that like stories like that, my boys who I know day after day when I first met them, because kids will clock you. And I had this one particular friend, every time he got mad, his favorite word, faggot. And I was like, oh, there goes my favorite word again.
Yep.
But
you called me.
He to this day will never call me that again, will never use it around his friends. And one day I even saw him check another kid on the playground. I was like, yo, like, chill out. We don't say that. Like Mr. Davian. But you could tell it wasn't even because like I was close and like gonna get him in trouble. It was more of a like, yo, like, you know, Mr. Davian is like, chill out. Like, you like him, I like him. Like, don't act like that. So it's those small moments where I'm like, yo, like what I taught you is actually like helping and coming to light and coming to fruition. Like all this hard work that I'm doing isn't like out of vain. It's working.
Yeah.
So I think that's essentially what keeps me going.
I think it's interesting that you say that because I used to volunteer when I was in undergrad. All 4 years I've volunteered at a school, and I noticed that it took a while to build the rapport with the kids, and they did clock me very easily. So
easily.
There was quite a warm up period because the boys were just looking like I'm not about to bang with this nigga. But after some time, I did find that they were so super respectful of me, especially the more interactions I had with their parents, who really knew that I just cared about their development, like just being there for their emotional support and really teaching them how to interact with each other and helping them with their homework. So I definitely feel like that's a truth.
Yeah, I agree because I worked with high schoolers like directly at one of the high schools in DC, and this was at the time when they had like a all male initiative and all male academy, and I came in with a lot of anxiety because I believe I wear my queerness like on my shirt. Like I cannot hide it as much as I want to be back in the closet when I'm in spaces for safety. I cannot, and I surprisingly did not get disrespect about my sexuality. It would just be like, oh, why your pants so tight, or like, oh, why your hair like that? But it was never like, you gay as shit, get out my face. It was never that. It was never that. Right. But it was definitely a challenge having those conversations about being more than what the society has, specifically with high schoolers, because they already have their mind made up, which you can get them at that moment when they are developing their own independence and autonomy, but that's like really 50-50. But I definitely, I was always cautious of my sexuality in so many spaces because I felt like if one person like, oh, he's like working with this student or he's specifically targeting like working with this young man, I'm like, no, I need all my brown boys to survive.
bitch, y'all can think all these things, but like I know how to navigate and things of that nature. But yeah, it's very interesting. But also, I want to know what does support look like when you were starting your nonprofit, Hopeful Horizons? How was people's feedback, initial thoughts of you creating it?
So I think I lucked up. I think one, the initial way that I was able to start the nonprofit was through a fellowship that I joined. So a friend of mine, shout out to DC Networks, but a friend of mine had did a fellowship where she had created a somewhat similar program for girls in like STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and math. And I was just like, yes, love it. And she had recommended me for it. So essentially, there's a program called 4.0 Schools that looks specifically for education entrepreneurs who are like trying to get something off the ground and running, but don't really know how to do it. Like most of the funding groups that you see now, it's for nonprofits who are already put together and they're just giving you grants. Like you already have everything started. You've shown us that this works. This is the type of organization that kind of like takes the risk and it's just like, oh, okay, we heard your idea. We think it's a great idea. We're going to give you that initial funding, that initial coaching to kind of like get you off the ground and running. So they gave me 10 grand, which in like layman terms sounds like a lot of money. Just starting a nonprofit, that shit is gone like that. But like set me up with like everything that I needed to like submit paperwork in DC, got some really strong coaching, was connected. So essentially it's cohort based. So I was working with like 20 other people who were already like either starting nonprofits or had just started a nonprofit with like in the last like 6 months. It's like we were kind of all struggle busing together, but like knew we could lean on each other for support. And there were quite a few people in DC that I could talk to, but officially became like a nonprofit, 501c3, all that good stuff. And like slowly but surely started to grow. So we only started with the boys at my school. It's just like, if you do anything, especially as an entrepreneur, you start small. You know, you want to make this big impact and serve all the Black, brown kids of America, but let's start with like the 30 at the school that I teach at. And it was very easy to like pilot things small. If this works, perfect, let's keep doing it. This doesn't work, let's stop that. Let's figure out the timing. What are kids most interested in? What are their actual needs? And I think that was the most important part of like, I think this is what you need, but is this actually what you need? Because I could think that the problem is this, but kids are like, no, like I'm actually doing this and I'm acting out because it's X, Y, and Z. But I didn't know that. I just assumed it. And they were very big on like me checking my own assumptions, asking parents what they needed, asking kids directly what they needed. So I think just like taking in their input, we started to change the program a lot more. So like, yeah, like we still do academic tutoring, but we've shifted to a much bigger focus of like community service. So like cleaning up our neighborhood, making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for the homeless, doing team building activities, just going roller skating and like bowling together, doing like just community service walks. It's just like, it's grown much more than what I initially intended it to be. But that's because I listened to like what kids wanted to do. They were like, our playground is raggedy and there's glass. There's condoms and pocket knives everywhere.
Oh no.
Probably clean this up.
Clean that up.
Deal with this. Or like every time I go outside, like there's the homeless man like standing outside of 7-Eleven, like sleep, passed out, doing all these other things, and I feel bad. Oh, why don't we do a peanut butter and jelly sandwich drive, not only to help him, but like to help other people who are kind of struggling right now. But I think it's just so important, especially that community service aspect, to instill that into them early. Because like, honestly, like I didn't touch community service until high school. And that was because it was a requirement in order to graduate. And then I was like, wait, like this is like fun and like fruitful. I like wish someone encouraged me to do this as a kid. But it eventually grew from like 30 kids to 50 kids. Then we eventually expanded into what's now known as Black Boys Book Brunch. But this is like my newest ventures part. It's still under Hopeful Horizons, but we lucked up. That same organization that like helped me get the ball running with Hopeful Horizons with the initial 10,000 was like, hey, we're looking for folks to give grant money to, specifically as we're like struggling with like coronavirus and COVID right now. And I was like, woo, well, our kids haven't been in school since March. Then we had Summer Slide, where kids were just playing all the time and they weren't reading. And these are Black and brown kids who are already dealing with trauma. Mm-hmm. And then you throw a global pandemic on top of that. It was just like the cherry on top. And I was just like, oh, we've got to do something.
Absolutely.
And these kids need to be able to interact with each other in a safe space. But we also have to close this academic gap. And I was like, virtual book club, something I always wanted to do, an actual book club in person. But I was just like, oh, coronavirus, like, let's do something of that. But they were like, oh my God, that sounds like a great idea. Here's 15 grand. And I was like, oh. Yeah. Then of course, like connections, no connections. They hooked me up with the Walton Family Foundation. Those are the rich white people who own Walmart. They were like, this does sound like a great idea. Here's another 20,000.
Oh, baby.
Just like, I've always to expand more, but you have to have that capital and that revenue.
Yeah.
It's just like, I can want to expand to 100 kids as much as I want. Yeah. But with only $10,000, that's like one book and us meeting every 3 months. But I'm like, now we've got close to $40,000 in the bank. We can give kids 3-4 books. And now at this point, we've expanded. I think I checked yesterday because we've still got people signing up, but we've expanded to 120 kids across the DMV. So we started from just those 30 babies at my school, and now we've like quadrupled in size and are serving kids in like Reisterstown and Baltimore and Ellicott City and Alexandria and Arlington. So I'm just glad to see it expand and not just reach the small bubble of like our school. It's now becoming this bigger thing. And even at this point, if we continue to grow, word of mouth is going to spread. We're still posting stuff on Instagram and Facebook. We still got the coins. So if y'all know folks who are interested, you have a Black and brown boy between 2nd and 5th grade who wants to like socialize with some other kids, read some books that are specifically about Black and brown boys and the Black and brown experience, send them my way.
I'm excited.
I was going to ask how word got around, like how it grew so quickly too.
Social media. And my family and my friends.
No.
I have a very close network and a very supportive group of like close friends and family. I'm also very big into Instagram. Y'all may not have been able to tell from like the amount of selfies.
You're like over 5,000 like followers
every other day, but I was like, just something like that. But I like created our own Instagram page, but then there becomes like the business of it. Yeah. I'm like, even in my doctoral work right now, we're learning how to like promote programming and all these other things related to like running a business and starting a business. And I'm like, all right, we've got to get this Instagram in shape. I've got to follow like key people in education. I've got to follow book authors. They're going to end up saying this to someone else. You do a raffle where you get people to follow you. You give them a gift card. That got us like 500 followers in a day. You promote your materials. So you got to spend a little money to get a little money back. But like over the course of 2 years, I think we have about 1,000 followers now. Still trying to grow. But just from that, posting pictures, posting stories about where we're going, the work we're doing, especially now lately, we've been posting all like little clips of all of our sessions from Black Boys Book Bunch, posting it on Facebook, doing small fundraisers here and there. But essentially that's how we got the ball rolling. Before we got like these huge grants from these partner organizations, we were running solely on like donations. Like people were like, hey, like I'm trying to get Christmas gifts for my boys. People were like, oh yeah, here's $100, here's $20. And we were able to make it work that way. But as we grew, the demand grew. And I was like, all right, now we got like 50 kids that like $2,000 in our fundraiser isn't going to stretch, but so far. So like building those relationships, I think that fellowship that I was in also has done a lot of promoting and expanding for us. Being featured in the New York Times was also very helpful.
Shout out to
we love a good brag. We love a good brag.
Yes, we do, honey.
Just a slight one, but
throw that bitch in there.
So we like a big one. We like a big brag.
I cannot express enough the power of connections and resources.
Yeah.
And I'm someone, people who know me very well, I wouldn't say that I have a split personality, but I grew up with my mother and my grandmother. My mother is very reserved. My grandmother is very loud and out of the box, and growing up so closely with both of them, I have characteristics of both. So like initially meeting people, especially in person, I can be very like shy and reserved. But like once you get to know me, I'm like, okay, like you're gonna see the real me. And I think a lot of people have now like seen the real me, and they're like, oh, like Davian's like real cool. I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna share this to my friend. I'm gonna promote this on my page. And day after day, we just started getting more and more followers and more kids involved.
You're human.
That so
That's
much.
the thing. You're human.
Yeah.
You also have this so marketable like nonprofit, like the idea that you have, and it's so easy for people to like want to believe in because it's literally our Black and brown boys, and we don't see that much. So it's like I can definitely see this going very far. I can also see Ellen, like, you know, even though she's problematic, wanting you on the show to speak about like it should be something that's very global. And I like
press where we can get it, honey.
All right, we can Ellen can put me on her little platform. You know, I'm good with her, but definitely I will talk about, you know, Hope Horizons and Black Boy Book Brunch. Don't play. Right. But so since you are expanding, what does like do you have a team now like that helps you like get the shit rolling?
It's so funny that you asked me this because I think this is another people who know me very well know that I am someone who will try to do everything by themselves and will struggle and will not say a damn word. And I think that's a mix of two different things. I think sometimes it's a trust thing. It's just like, nope, this is my baby. I started this. I don't want to. Nope, like I got it. It's cool. Nope, you don't need to do this. I got it. But I think really it's like I want to show people that I'm strong. Like I'm this strong Black man who can do this all by himself. But I think that was one to the expense of like my mental health and probably why I gained all that damn weight. But like two, it kind of gives off this vibe to folks that you don't trust them. And I don't think a lot of people think of it. It's just like when you say like, oh no, I got it, I can handle it, and I'm like, no, like I really want to help, I really want to volunteer, and I'm like, nah, I got it. That's given like, bitch, like I tried to help you. Like,
yeah.
But I think like since we've expanded so much, like it clicked for me. It was like, woo, like all right. Once we got like 40 kids, I was like, I can't do this by myself. I was doing it by myself.
Yeah.
I was spreading myself so thin that I wasn't loving the work anymore. And I was like, oh no, already a bad sign. I liked the work, did not love the work. And I was just like, oh, okay, I gotta relax. So once we came up with the idea of like Black Boys Book Bunch, I was like, logistically, I was like, all right, Davian, you gotta be smart with yourself. This is not gonna work by yourself. So like put out a call for volunteers, and it was remarkable to say the least, but we had like put out a call for volunteers like right before our first session. Kid you not, within 48 hours, I think 38 people messaged me to volunteer.
They believe.
And I was just like, I love every single one of you. But then it became that weird thing where it's just like, all right, 38 people want to volunteer, but we actually don't need that many volunteers right now. Like that's actually going to be like more of a headache, like logistically. So I kind of like went on a first come, first serve / who do I know has relationships with these Black and brown boys already. We're kind of given priority.
Yeah.
But it was also like based on commitment. Like there was a group of people who were like, yes, I can volunteer every other Tuesday at this time. I've taught these kids before. I've had conversations about race. It's like, yes, like you're at the top of the list. There were some people who were like, like I can probably make it. So like they're definitely still like in our like contact list, especially when we like expand back to things being in person again. Like that's when it's actually going to be helpful to have like more volunteers, especially like the more ad hoc ones that are like, I want to help. I can't commit every other week, but I want to help. But right now we have a team of 11 volunteers who help me every other Tuesday when we lead our Black Boys Book Bunch sessions. And I was very purposeful about like including them across lines of difference. And I think that's something that I really had to sit with, because in my initial planning, I was just like, Black Boys Book Bunch has to be a group with Black and brown boys, with books about Black and brown boys, led by Black and brown men. And I was just like, one, there were two caveats to that. We had some Black and brown men reach out, but the majority of the people who reached out to volunteer were women.
Women. I was going to say, was it? It was women. I was going to say, was it women?
It was a good chunk of white women. So I was just like, ooh, like, all right. Like I had my close Black and brown male friends.
Yeah.
Who like were immediately like, yes. 4 or 5 of them. But the majority of them overwhelmingly were women. And I was like trying to pinpoint what that was. But then a lot of them are like teachers. Teachers just they want to help babies no matter what.
Yeah.
But then a lot of those teachers had taught my babies before. So they were either still teachers at my current school or were teachers at my current school at one point and have left and have already built those relationships with them. But I was just like, you know what? It's actually going to be very helpful to hear and see these messages coming from people that don't necessarily look like you. Like me as a Black man, it's also important to have a Latino man. It's also going to be important to have a Black woman in this conversation. It's also even important to have this white woman in the conversation because it helps to build that trust that a lot of them inherently don't have.
I don't.
Like these kids will tell you to your face in 3rd grade, I don't trust white people. And I'm like, damn, girl, like they low-key giving us every reason not to. But I'm like, you have to spread that message that like all white people aren't bad. There are some terrible white people, but there are some white people who genuinely do want to look out for you. Here's an example of one who spends her time every 2 weeks to like connect with you. So it was a very interesting process about like how our volunteers came together. But I think it's an awesome group because we all have like different backgrounds and beliefs in particular things, all particularly that are still aligned to like supporting Black and brown boys. But when it comes to like leading discussions, there's going to be insight that a white woman has that I don't have on a particular topic. And I think it's important for those boys to hear that from her, but to also hear my views and to also hear someone else's views and to see that like we're all collectively working together for you. It's not just Black and brown men looking out for you, which is the case, but you have all of these people, woman, man, Black, white, who are all like, yes, we are here to help you. And I want kids to kind of see that messaging early. Would it be great to have more Black male volunteers? Hell yes. But are enough stepping up to the plate so far? No, unfortunately.
That's very interesting. I appreciate that you have that context of this is for Black boys, but you have volunteers that are not specifically Black men supporting. I think that would be something I would think about. Like, I think with the show, I would always be like, I want a whole Black male staff. I want all Black men. And I think Devin was like, okay, that's good, Devery, but you also you should think. And I'm like, you're right, sis. You're right. But I had the same mindset. I want Black boys everywhere you look. But it's like there needs to be people that can also be like, I support you as well. That is not a Black boy or identify as that. But then also shout out to, I noticed that people that work on their like masters or doctors while they're also working, it helps with their like degrees because like you're literally pulling from what you're working on and put it into your papers, which I'm like, that's easy A right there. Like.
My last set of papers have all been either about this group or specifically about my experience as a vice principal. But like you said, they go hand in hand. It's just like, ooh, like easy A, like easy topic that's already on my mind. But like finding a grad program that's actually applicable to the work that I'm doing.
Right.
Not just a paper. It's like, oh, I could be doing this paper just for the sake of doing this paper degree. But it's like, no, like, you're forcing me to create an action plan for something that I actually need to do.
And I'm going to implement this bitch.
It's great. It's so great.
And I'm going to implement it too. Wow, this shit sounds really good.
No, you know what? That's really divine. I think that is so divine that program would work in a way that's really going to elevate you. Like that's so practical. That's what those are supposed to be designed for, that it is going to take you to the next level. So shout out to you for that. You are very, very, very blessed.
Yes.
Oh, so I got the
girl, come on this way.
Where do you see Hopeful Horizon going in the near future?
Definitely continuing to grow. My big goal is that like this ultimately becomes like a national program. It started off as something in my school, and my mindset at that time is just like, you know what? Even if this is only for the kids in my school, this works. Within 2 years, we've already expanded to the DMV. I can only imagine what like continued work, getting more volunteers, getting more grants, what this program is going to look 2 years from now, 5 years from now. Because I tell people all the time, like, since I've joined Teach for America, since I started teaching, since I became a vice principal, like I don't see myself doing anything else unless it's directly related to education. Future goal, you know, it's leaning towards becoming a principal, maybe even a superintendent at one day. But I'm like, if it's not one of those two things, my like true dream would be to like run this nonprofit on a national scale. Like, this is my baby. I watched it grow. I'm handpicking the people that I want to be involved, but we grew from helping 30 kids to helping thousands of Black and brown boys. They're getting these books of kids that look like them, that are representative of them, that are on topics about them, written by people that look like them. We're having opportunities where volunteers in the New York chapter of Hopeful Horizons are doing their own peanut butter and jelly drive for the homeless. And the Bay Area chapter in California is having their annual field trip to like just spend time with each other and build brotherly bonds. I think that's secretly like my agenda. Don't know when that will happen. Don't know if it will. I'm gonna pray. Those fingers are crossed. You never know, because shit, 10 years ago, did I think I was gonna be a vice principal fresh out of high school? No. But I think like, who knows where I might be 10 years from now.
Yeah, child, you might be Secretary of Education, huh?
Right. I'm like,
see it for you.
First of all, shout out to you finding books that are specifically for brown boys. Like, you finding those books and incorporating it just like refuels, like, bitch, we out there. There's books for us, there's books by us, there's books that are about us. And it's great that you are having those conversations in the space with the Black boys. So I really like that those books also, the boys see themselves in that space as well. So that is dope. Is there any last words you want to leave the listeners or viewers with to close out?
I think my biggest thing is just like, support the Black and brown boys that you know. Tell them that you love them. If it's your brother, if it's your son, if it's your cousin, if it's your nephew, if it's your student, tell them you love them, because they need to hear it.
They do.
And sometimes I don't think they hear it enough.
Nope.
Or they only hear it from the same people over and over and over again. Tell them that you love them. They need to hear it. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Facebook.
Come on.
Horizons with an S, not with a Z, y'all. I spelled it that way on purpose. It's not a typo.
Not Horizons.
Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Facebook. Spread the word. If you live in the DMV, if you know a 2nd through 5th grade student, a Black and brown boy living in the DMV, completely free. You'll see the link to our registration on our Instagram form, or just send us a DM and we'll send it to you. But we're still expanding. They'll get approximately 3 to 4 free books that will typically span the course of about 4 to 5 months. We meet bi-weekly on Tuesdays from 5 to 6 p.m. to discuss those books, but also to discuss current events and also just do some virtual team building with each other. But spread the word, and if you know anyone who wants to join, please sign up.
How can I join? I know I'm old as shit, but like, I'm like, I want to be around the Black boys. I would have had, let me tell y'all, if I would have had this when I was this little Black boy out here not knowing who I was, I would have loved it. I would have been in here giddy as shit. Like, I could be myself.
And it's crazy because I think that that's one of the big reasons why I do so much of the things that I do. It's just like, I didn't have this. But just because I didn't have it doesn't mean that like you don't deserve it, or doesn't even mean that I didn't deserve it when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I want to give that, or like create that opportunity for someone else. Like, not even in that like crazy savior complex, but it's just like, I have the means, the tools, the resources, and the competency to like give you something that I know will help you, that I know would have benefited me, and to watch it grow. And like you said, like, I would have loved if I had this when I was younger. And I was a little bit hesitant at first. I was just like, all right, like, it's a book club. And we know that like most kids tend to love math and they love reading, because math is very straight at a younger age before it gets crazy and we turn to like algebra and trigonometry and calculus and all that stuff. Most elementary kids love math more than they love reading. Math is very straightforward. You got the numbers, you plug them in, you got it. Reading is very complex, and if you don't catch it early, you will fall behind very quickly, and it will span a couple of years if your teacher doesn't catch it. I was like, oh, like, are kids signing up, like only signing up because they're like, their mom made them do it? or they think that they're going to get something, or they're only doing it to please me. But after that first week, like parents were texting, calling me, sending me pictures. Like they have not put down this book yet. For the boys at my school, they all have like, we all have matching shirts and hoodies. They've been wearing their shirts to class and like purposely trying to like show them off.
Bitch, you want to join? It's an exclusive.
So, like,
so cute. Oh my God.
Haven't joined yet. They're like, oh, hey.
That's so cute.
Can you tilt your camera up? And they was just like, oh, my bad. I didn't know it was down there.
Oh, child. That's a little fraternity right there.
So cute. Oh my God.
I know that like they genuinely like it. I didn't want it to become like a program that like your mom's forcing you to do this because she told you to read and you're not genuinely into it. There were a couple of kids who were like that. But after like our second or third session, they were like, oh shit, like this is actually fun. Like I get to hang out with the kids that I go to school with. I get to read books that are about me. And that's probably the reason why they don't like reading in the first place, because half the books they're reading in school are about white kids.
I don't care about Susie.
Their issues and all of their traditional families.
Yeah.
But no books about single moms, no books about full traditional families in the Black communities, no books about Black and brown kids who happen to be gay, no books about Black and brown kids who happen to be differently able. So they're like, shit, I don't want to read this. And then you put a book in front of them that's actually interesting and that has characters that look like them. And they're like, wait, like there's books like this? And I'm like, yeah, and they get better. And those are the ones that I've been reading this whole time. And then you hook them.
Well, child, well, I'm excited. I definitely am going to promote even more. Like, I definitely think that having you on here was like, I love it. I was like giddy. I'm like, brown boys? This is about brown boys. It's about brown boys. And we are a podcast about brown boys. So we really, really appreciate the conversation and what you offer. And we are definitely knowing that Hopeful Horizons will expand and it will be somewhere that has chapters all across the world and things of that nature. So thank you so much. If you all would like to continue the conversation with us on our platforms, you can hit me up on my Instagram, not my personal. I'm thinking I got a nonprofit. I'm over a guy. I got a nonprofit. No, you can hit me up at you can hit me up on Instagram at Twitter at _lordevery. That is _LORDEVERY. Like I said, on Instagram and Twitter.
And you can follow me on Instagram at derwinking. That's DERWINKING. And on Twitter at Free Negro. That's FREENEGREAUX.
Yes. And did you want to promote your personal platforms?
Oh, yeah. My personal Instagram and Twitter are both Davey DeVito, DAVEY _DIVITO.
Yes, and if you all would like to continue the conversation with the podcast, you can hit us up on Instagram and Twitter at @ThatBlackBoyJoy. And if you would like to have the conversation with us on Gmail and also be a guest on the show, please hit us up at thatblackboyjoypodcast@gmail.com. And like we always say, please be so in love with who you are and take care.
Bye. Hey, I'm talking about the Black Boy Joy.